Ethan Klein is a guy on the internet. Ethan Klein of H3H3 Productions and his wife, Ela Klein, have been internet mainstays for a decade or more. I really don't know when they started, but I started watching them in like 2015, 2016, so it's been a minute. The Kleins have transitioned from old school internet content where they were big time commentators and lampooners of internet culture and comedy into a series of ongoing podcast enterprises, which include the H3H3 podcast, which has gone through a few different visual iterations. Frenemies, which was a co-podcast with another notorious internet creator. My brain keeps saying Tana Mongeau, and I know it's not. The chick from that goddamn Eminem video. You know what I mean? Somebody say it and I'll go back. Trisha Paytas. I didn't need it. Frenemies with Trisha Paytas. And lastly, Leftovers with Hasan Piker and Ethan Klein talking about the politics issues of the day. And that was going for about, I don't know, like 9 months-ish, it feels like, until right around this time last year. They had a pretty big falling out post October 7th because Hasan is a cunt, really, and refuses to control his audience, and Ethan is Ethan Klein. He is a very mixed opinions from everybody type individual, but generally Ethan Klein is a known quandary. He's kind of impossible to lie about because everyone sort of knows he's been on the internet for so long, and he's such a really non-snaky, non-deceitful type person, in my opinion, that sort of you kind of always know how Ethan Klein is going to react to something. I think that's why he really has the audience that he does, is because people want to see the incoming Ethan Klein reaction to a thing. Now, those reactions are usually where he gets most of his criticism or even his plaudits from, and some of the politics behind the reactions are this, that, and the other, but he's kind of like not a guy that has thrown anyone for the loop. You know what I mean? Maybe disappoint you, but you can kind of always assume things are going to go in a certain direction. Hasan, however, is kind of a snaky piece of shit. He's always been kind of a clout fiend, clout beast, and he has always put his personal, immediate political leanings relative to his audience ahead of personal interactions with other people, because he basically generates clout from hyper certainty in his positions, right? Which are very often don't seem like they're necessarily his positions. They're the positions that he has been given by his community. You know what I mean? Not necessarily like, and this isn't just to say like he doesn't agree with anything he says, but usually the specific minute directions of it and the intensity of belief in that position might not actually match up with him. Usually he's right around the ballpark, but even his own fans very often are like, hey, you're off the mark, and the absolutism of his current political direction is really what feeds his audience. Former Hasan collaborator and Hasan putter on the mapper, Destiny, Stephen Kenneth Destiny Bunnell III, second, whatever the fuck. I don't even know if that's a real. I don't know what his extended Spanish name is. El Gusano. Not the slur kind. Destiny put him on, and he had a giant falling out with Destiny that probably didn't have to be a whole falling out. Hasan kind of falls in the semi-old school internet's politics camp of like the Tumblr era, where there is an ontological and moral superiority is actually the most valuable thing about his political messaging, which can be very, very attractive and very, very engaging right off the bat, because you say, oh shit, this guy believes in this thing that I'm kind of for, super hardcore, and I feel like I can kind of bask in the radiation of his intensity of support for this or that cause or the other. The problem is that intensity has to be maintained, and no one can be that angry or that upset or that indignant for a long period of time without causing themselves significant mental damage. You literally can't be that angry all the time. You'll give yourself a hernia or a fucking ulcer or brain damage. You can fucking give yourself PTSD by being too ass blasted all the goddamn time, which I think people are starting to see Hasan show the signs of. Like, he seems like he's legitimately in mental, not full mental distress, but like in a not great mental space very often. He just seems permanently fucking immiserated and depressed and paranoid, like all the fucking time. Even as far as like miserable, paranoid, and depressed people go at the heights of the political commentary sphere where he exists. So he started a podcast to talk about lefty issues with Ethan Klein, who is more centrist, more capitalist, and very normie coded. Whether you like or dislike Ethan Klein, the intensity of your opinions is probably relative to kind of how much like he is most people. He's very similar to a Philip DeFranco, where he's more of a shit poster, but he has kind of the most normie perspective on stuff. And that really is the case. And if you don't want to believe me, you don't have to believe me. But if you want to see the median voter, it's basically a sum of Philip DeFranco and Ethan Klein. And that is where the median voter is currently sitting. All reactionary and insane opinions together, that's where it is. And usually when people are disappointed, it's because the Overton window has shifted and Ethan Klein or Philip DeFranco have slightly moved off of plumb with the individual that's starting to get ass mad about it. That's usually kind of just the case. So you kind of see large chunks of communities get happier and unhappier with him. You can see the drama community, the far right community, centrist communities, lefty, lib communities getting happier and more upset with Ethan as he, a almost near perfect representation of the Overton window, shifts over top and away and to them. I'm not even fucking kidding. You can track the Americans distancing themselves from far left politics through the interactions of Ethan Klein and Hasan over the course of the Leftovers podcast. Before October 7th, pretty ostensibly left talking points and exceptionally progressive movements were very, very popular in America because we had just gone through the blue wave, or not the blue wave, but the ruined red wave, so to say, the blue beachhead, so to say. And, you know, there's a lot of positivity towards lefty talking points. However, lefty talking points weren't really solidified as part of an overall package, right? It's kind of just a series of grab bag issues, all that happened to be on the left of the middle of the aisle. Moreover, you could probably count most of them as progressive issues as opposed to lefty issues, more culture positive stuff. Most of these things are stuff that the vast majority of even the median voters have proven that they're on the side of. Things like abortion rights, female reproductive rights in general, IVF, access to contraception, Planned Parenthood, stuff like that. Workers' rights in the form of union protections, worker protections, things that I'm hyper for in that case, minimum wage, access to healthcare, things of that nature. The more extreme positions are full certainty messaging on any of the things that I've described, where it's kind of like you can throw away the world for that one specific thing. That's kind of like the hardest of the far left positions. It's not even really far leftism in the terms of like Marxist. It's really just maybe instead of a direction, I think it's more of an up and down position. I hate to do political content stuff, but I think it's really just the intensity of the focus on lefty positions from people who are ostensibly on the internet left. Now, this isn't people that even know half the time what the fuck they're talking about. They just happen to say that they're on the left because of maybe some minority disposition that they have, some specific bugbear issue that they have drags them leftward, but their actual overall disposition is at the median voter or even sometimes far right culturally. They just haven't come to grips with that with that themselves yet because of some random minority status they might have or some other thing that makes them otherized to the white power structures that kind of run America. They have thought of themselves as being left, even though culturally, if they switched power positions with white people, they would be indiscernible in the way that they executed their will over the people underneath them. So like they're fascist basically. But they're just the wrong color or the wrong religion or wrong class, basically, and they can't quite access power, but they still want that fascist fucking, they want that juice. And so there's a chunk on the left that kind of splits. It's kind of like a shale split where you're all kind of in the same position, but some people have gone up, some people have gone down. And this intensity of fervor, almost zealotry for some of these leftist positions has been extremely off-putting to your average American for a long time now. By long, I mean like a year or so, maybe 2-ish years. But it was the stuff that was very, very off-putting about lefty and progressive positions in the mid-2010s. And it's typified by a zealous focus on one's own ontological purity. Ontological just means like, never mind. Ontological is kind of like an inherent characteristic. Let me fucking look it up. God damn it. I want to look up the definition so I say it the correct way. It's one of those words where I've never actually had to say. If I don't have to say the definition of something, I like out loud. Sometimes I can't define it. Ontological, relating to the branch of metaphysics dealing with the nature of being. So it is exactly what I was about to say. It's an inherency to you, right? So ontological evil, ontological good is the inherency of evil or good to a position, as though it's crafted within it. This is like Kantian ethics, I think. And categorical imperative shit. It's kind of a bad way to look at things. Ultimately, things are good because they're good. Things are bad because they're bad. And then sometimes things fall in between those, and all of the things that have any bad on them are not good. It's kind of how ontological ethics or deontological ethics, to a lesser extent, work, right? So ontology is purity testing, really. So ontologically good is a purity test. There you go. So these people that see things in ontological terms relative to their political positions because they've deceived themselves into thinking that there are no such things as compromise on this earth or power structures that are not related to amoral positions. I don't know. They lose their fucking minds, basically, if you don't agree with them in every way, because from an ontological standpoint, you have any badness in you, then you're probably just bad, right? Which is where Hasan comes in. Hasan is ontologically perfect to his supporters, which is why when you have an argument with a Hasan supporter, it's very rarely fact-based and very often sophistry, right? They don't want to attack the positions because the positions are inconsequential. You already fucked up by disagreeing with Hasan, so I just need to show you that you are a fuck up for disagreeing with Hasan because you're also disagreeing with me and then you're also disagreeing with my position. So you don't need to prove that you're wrong. You just need to prove that you're impure and imperfect, and then you can be discounted. This is a very, very difficult place to be if you have to talk with anyone else, because that's fascism, by the way. And you will never meet another person that is also ontologically perfect. And also you can't be ontologically perfect. You can just be so close to perfection that people will permit you, while things that are further from perfection have to be destroyed, right? Ethan came across that on the Leftovers podcast. It started off pretty chill. Because when you agree on stuff, like workers' rights, very easy things, hey, we all need healthcare somehow, that kind of shit, it's all good. It's all golden. But when you get to things that are actually complicated and require compromise on ontologically bad, good side, you know what I mean? You start talking about stuff that you have to, or people will try to force you to see from an ontological perspective. Genocide, bad, right? Anything that would be remotely associated with the genocide is now also bad. And you see that with these pro-Palestine, non-committed types. I don't want to call them pro-Palestine protesters. The non-committed Palestine advocates. Uncommitted Palestine advocates is fucking perfect. There we go. You see this with uncommitted Palestine advocates, where it is any deviation from what they think in their mind is the path forward is ontologically impure and therefore ontologically bad. It is slippery slope all the way out, has to go. So with Leftovers, where people coming to it from Ethan Klein's side saw was a sort of meeting between the kind of Libby, center-left, centrist, median voter individual talking with a actual leftist advocate, which is how Hasan used to paint himself before he lost his fucking mind and became, well, he lost his sheen, so to say, and you kind of started seeing the machinery that comes that operates him from beneath. Having those two talk to each other put you in a position where if you're on Hasan's side, all you can see is Ethan Klein failing to understand reason again and again and again and again, because you are not a person that thinks critically. You're a Hasan fan. Like, You are literally there just to have him agree with you. That's the only thing. And for you to agree with the rest of his chat, which is really why Hasan can fucking stream just watching nothing, because all of the people there are basically there to take communion and fucking go. They want to hear Hasan say the thing that they want to hear Hasan say, which is what they want to hear from him. If they don't hear that, they'll either lie to themselves or they'll freak the fuck out and run up to him and say, "No Diet Coke," you know? They want to hear that. And so when you have to mix that audience up with anybody else, it can cause a lot of conflict. Vosh is much the same way. Vosh is very much the same way. His audience is exactly the same in just a different overall compass direction, right? Not left or right thing, just what they're most focused on, their highest level, highest tier bugbear issues, which is why when you see people go into their chats, you'll see people freaking the fuck out and calling people that are even agreeable with the individuals slurs, horrible, horrible words, calling them the worst possible people ever, insulting them, deriding them. And then he's like, dude, what's wrong with your chat? Like, what the fuck is going on here? And he's like, oh, I don't know. I just kind of can't keep control of them. It's kind of like a lot for anyone to ask me is to keep any control whatsoever of my community, which is where we're going with Hasan. Now that you guys have seen this in a bunch of different directions and I've explained this, with Hasan, his entire political ethos and his way of delivering content precludes him from having any positive relations with anybody who is not perfectly in lockstep with him on every issue that he is going to talk about with them in front of his audience. Because if in any other case, they're just going to start getting flack. If it's an ongoing thing, there's going to be even less forgiveness from Hasan's audience, and Hasan's audience is geared up to go harass people. They are horrible harassers of other communities. Is it every Hasan fan? No, but if it's 1% of Hasan fans, it's hundreds of thousands of fucking people. You know what I mean? It's like a literal city's worth of harassers that are basically driven on through Hasan's stochastic terrorism style of fucking discourse. Hasan is about ontological purity. He is about this is good, that's bad. He's about being absolutely mind blown about it. He's about saying someone's gotta fucking do something about this. I guess the world's gonna fucking end if no one does anything about this. He does the exact same shit that other people on the right do when they're trying to whip their audiences into a frenzy. And the thing is if you don't do that for a long time, right, like a month or two, it doesn't go away because the fire is raging, right? And if it's a large community, the fire will also do the side effect of removing non-psychopathic people from your community, which increases the overall fire size. Basically, you turn good trees into fucking kindling as it goes on, and then you have to other people just fucking leave, to overextend the metaphor. So Hasan's basically experiencing what I think Destiny calls this audience capture. I just call this emergent cult status, right? Where you have a specific single interlocutor, a single individual, not interlocutor, a single individual at the top of a pyramid of descending individuals. So at the top you have Hasan, then you have Hasan's orbiters immediately underneath him, and some of his like high profile friends, his lower orbiters who orbit his orbiters, highly placed chatters, and the gigantic mass of chatters beneath. And so all the information going up to him has to be clarified through everyone agreeing with him. It's yes man shit up, and then he says shit back down that's basically just as agreeable. The whole like meme of Hasan always looks at his chat to make sure that he's saying the right thing may or may not be true, but it's definitely something that you can kind of interpret, even if it's not happening live while you're watching. It's definitely the disposition of how he interacts with his community. He has to really be in lockstep with them about everything. I mean, how many times have you actually heard of Hasan actually pissing off his audience in such a significant way that like they all fucking leave? Usually it's just him breaking off fucking relations with other creators. You know what I mean? And it's just like literally him doing a fucking like a fire barricade, blowing up a small chunk and letting that float off so that he can kind of keep his own audience static and steady and like focused the fuck on him. And he can keep himself static and steady and focused on them, which is why he does not like criticism and doesn't entertain it at all. Like he's not a guy that will take anybody onto his show to really have like any strict disagreements with him over hostile issues. He did it like a couple of times, but even then, it's really like easy to win situations. You have to beat Andrew Tate in a Andrew Tate is not gay debate. not exactly a high level fucking difficulty attempt. And when he actually has to talk to people who have a pretty solid grounding in rhetoric and research, even if it's not like, a fucking Harvard level debate scholar, it's fucking like Willie Mack. Willie Mack fucking mopped the goddamn floor with Hasan because he was just like mildly prepared. And Hasan is so rarely exposed to criticism intentionally and like has to deal with it in a way that actually like entertains the criticism enough to counteract it on its own terms that he can't fucking deal. Which is why when you see Hasan on debate programs, he just devolves into raw fucking insults off rip. His audience eats it the fuck up. When he was on Piers Morgan, and it was in that thing, just making fun of that random British guy for being like irrelevant and British. It's like, okay, but you didn't add anything onto it. I mean, if you want to do blood sports, it's blood sports, but like, you don't even want to do blood sports because you won't hang out with the blood sports people. You brought blood sports to a fucking Piers Morgan debate and no one was prepared for it, and then you ran the fuck away, and you won't entertain that from motherfuckers that can actually like roll in the blood sports arena. You know what I mean? Like Hasan's not going to bring a fuck Medicare, or even just like some low level shit. I guess like Queeman does that stuff. I don't know too much about Queeman. I won't even mention him because Nick Duro talked about him. But even anyone from that sphere, Chud Logic or somebody, fucking actual justice warrior, that fucking dipshit. I don't think like, honestly, Hasan could hang with Hake Report. And Hake Report is like a literal special needs child. Like every time I actually see him, I'm surprised that he's fucking like in his 40s. He talks like a 18-year-old or a 16-year-old on a short bus with a helmet on. With all due respect to the guy, he sounds like he fucking accidentally ate his own shit out of his pants because he thought it was fudge one time. Like legitimately, Hake Report sounds like so many extra chromosomes. I don't know why no one else talks about it, but I digress. This all comes to head with the fallout in the Leftovers podcast. These are all my interpretations of situations. Tyler, you're going to play clips for this? Like, no, fucking just go watch the shit. Remember what I said, and if you feel like I'm wrong, play the fucking clips back to me. Fucking got a goddamn reference every fucking, like, interpretation of a months-long conflict with a clip. The Ralph mail. Oh, my God. Like the Ralph retort. I think the Ralph retort. Dude, get some fucking Tonka saw. The next hippy dippy debate, we have Hasan representing the leftists, and on the right, Tonka saw. Moderated by Sam Hyde. Unironically, I think that might be one of the most psychotic. That would be honestly the best. You're like, why don't you have somebody that's like way more in the middle and that hasn't threatened to kill him? I was like, I think because even Hasan would like it to just be so clearly unfair from the start that he has an excuse for his imminent poor fucking behavior. All he could do, like, dude, oh my God, could you imagine him on a fucking blood sports? What are you gonna do? Attack the other people for being poorer than you? Fucking like, they already know, bro. They're fucking ready for that one. God damn. They're like the Beyonce stands. Barb's and Beyonce stands and the fucking getting ready to fight in here. But either way, this is there's a massive amount of fallout. Jeff Garepi. Isn't he dead? No, his wife's dead. Jeff Garepi killed his wife. Is that what happened? I can't remember. Jeff Garepi killed his wife. I don't know if any of those people are still alive. With all that said, this kind of came to a head, obviously, and the Leftovers podcast fell apart. Hasan refuses to take responsibility for it. Mostly, he just says that Ethan was completely unreasonable. Ethan Klein is, if anything, one of the most weirdly reasonable people on the internet. He's an idiot. Sometimes he's a clout shark. Sometimes he's a clown. Sometimes he oversells his position. But like, I've never really seen very many situations where Ethan Klein has been like met with business proposition level interaction with somebody and not been perfectly reasonable. Obviously, there's probably going to be one or two instances where that didn't happen, but like most of the time, the Ethan Klein issue, the issue that people have with him is that he's either A, like not hard enough on guests, old version of the H3H3 podcast, or B, goes way too hard on people with like a minimum amount of like evidence and just clowns up. But it's also like not even that big of a deal because Ethan Klein, like what, Ethan Klein called you a pedophile? Like, all right. Are you? No? Okay, well, ignore it. Fucking Ethan Klein, man. Here we go. This is addressing the recent Hasan and Frogan situation. Frogan is a no account Hasan orbiter. I hope you watch this. Frogan, hi. I don't know. You don't have fucking anything going on. What's up? You should do a response video to me. I know you ain't got fucking anything going on. Let's see who can get a bigger. Let's see who can get closer to 10K in the responses, Frogan. Me or you? But yeah, Ethan is a guy on the internet. Let's hop into this.
Well, it's already 4:06. We started a little late.
I want to talk about my beef with Bin Laden.
Okay. Okay.
Now, I made the brave assertion on Instagram, and again, this stems from these TikTok people who are like being like simping for Bin Laden because he was anti-American and failed.
Do you think he got that fly?
To read the rest of his manifesto, in which he said specifically, the reason I did this attack is because you're all gay Jews who aren't Muslim, it's doing Sharia law, and also you give loans. You loan with interest.
There's a surprising amount of usury talk in that letter.
They really don't. They really not down with the usury.
Yeah.
So they can get.
And Christianity is supposed to be against it too, but they've just kind of.
They don't care about it.
They don't take it that seriously anymore.
So you're supposed to lend money without interest?
Yeah, you're not supposed to charge interest.
Well,
on
how are
a
you going
loan.
to do that? Who's going to do that?
This is like a memory TV clip. Israeli anti-Palestine fucking. You say the Jew does not understand you can lend money without interest. It is inborn into him. He cannot understand that you can lend money without interest. How can you do that? It's fucking awesome. They still lend it with interest. They just do it in a different way, basically. But like, it's kind of impossible. I think the thing that you really do is you forgive the interest in a general sense. Like if you pay it back, there's a whole way. Because like honestly, yeah, lending money without a risk of collateral or without an incentive on the loaner's part to lend the money, some sort of like reciprocity, some sort of earn, you know, that's like kind of the point of lending money, is that you get like another % of it back when they pay you, kind of deal, unless it's like your parents or something. Without that, it's kind of like, well, what the fuck would you lend money for, right? It kind of falls out of the purview of business and goes into the purview of raw generosity. And loans are inherently necessary for any economy to exist. Because if you don't have loans, if you guys don't understand this, if you don't have loans, you can't, you can't speculate on productivity. Loans are a speculation on productivity. Okay. Now, bad loans, anything can be good and bad. Loans are not, they're morally neutral ultimately, because a loan can have no money or no interest attached to it. A loan can be forgiven. So loans really do run the gamut from morally good, really, to morally bankrupt, evil, and generally fall in the ballpark of morally neutral, right? So if you want to make something, right, you need the labor, you need the products that go into the construction of this thing. Say you're building a factory, you're going to need the building, you're going to need the land. Say you already have the land and the building. Now you need the equipment, you need the labor, and then you need all of the other ancillary things to create a product and put it out into the market so that it can be sold, and then you can get a return on the investment required to make that. Now, if you don't have the capital to purchase all of these things immediately, you need to be able to convince people to front you the capital that you'll pay them back so that you can like basically speculate on your own income, so you can invest in this. So that's why you take out a loan as an investment, or have somebody invest in you, which is a different type of loaning. There's a lot of different ways to get into this. Obviously, talk to somebody that's an economist, but you have to have the ability to be fronted money from random third parties for any economy to go. Because eventually you'll run into a situation where if you don't have some concept of loans, then you will run out of people who are trusting enough of you and generous enough to you to give you money without any stipulation attached, right? Like the loss of your house or of other property, internment in debtor's prison back in the day, or even just a stake in the business or a percentage return on the loan itself, right? And all those things have to be regulated, and they are in Western society and have been pretty strictly regulated for a while. As a matter of fact, every time basically that loan regulations are reduced or relaxed at all, we have stuff like some subprime mortgages, subprime mortgages being loaned out, and it tanks the fucking economy because you loan more than you could ever be repaid, basically. And then you take out capital on the loans that you're going to be repaid. And because the loans can't be repaid and you'll never get that capital back, you mark it off as a loss, but the loss has to go somewhere and the loss goes on to the American people, basically. Somebody that wants to be more complicated about the economic implications of subprime mortgages, please take it away, friends. Send this to Destiny so he can fucking make fun of me for being wrong about economics. No, fuck that. Send it to Econo Boy. It's in the name, right? Never watched a single Econo Boy thing. Understanding Economics, okay? That's the one that made fun of Philosophy Tube. They're only like 100,000 fucking times the size of me, right? But basically, you have to have loans for an economy to operate. You have to have them. And to have them, you have to do two things. You have to have an excess of capital reserved in certain areas so that the capital can be fronted. And you have to have there be an incentive to front the capital in the first place, right? So maybe if you have a hyper-religious area or something where it's like, okay, certainly we'll do this, blah, 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 but really that only goes so far. So incentivizing loans by permitting usury on the loans, by permitting people to charge interest on the loan, both as a threat against even taking it out. Like you hear mafia guys like, look, the VIG is too high for you to pay back. Don't take this loan. I'll still give it to you, but you're going to be fucked. That's one of the things, a VIG, big points, big escalating fucking points on a short loan. That's one thing. Not all loans are good. A lot of loans can be bad. Any loan that you take from a diminished position is probably going to be hostile to you. And that's one of the biggest issues is basically loan usury in poor areas being used to exploit poor people, right? So like from a Muslim perspective, a lot of these, or like not a Muslim perspective, but more like a Salafist, like hardliner, not phalangists, those are Catholics, hardliner perspective, the taking out of a loan, right, as a poor person who can't pay it back, or the offering of loans to poor people is a way to put people in permanent debt, and therefore is immoral, which everybody agrees with. In this case, it's a deontological level of amorality, and it can't be permitted under Islam, right? And so like you have more and more of that. So there are ways to loan money in Islam, right? And it is not usury. And I think Muslim loans in Muslim countries are actually pretty fair compared to the rates in other parts of the world, and it's way easier to get out of debt. So in that case, awesome, but also most of the Muslim world is not as economically fucking vibrant as the psychotic oil thieves that we are. So who knows how it actually would work out. There's no way to test case whether or not it's better or worse for an economy because it's too complicated, but they still have some degree of interest repayment on top of the loans. Just look into Islamic jurisprudence. It's a little bit complicated and involves situations that don't really arise in America very often that you would run into. But there's a lot of different types of loans. There's a lot of different types of usury within usury and all that stuff, but it is necessary for economics to have capital withheld in a certain area and then given out to stake as an investment in certain directions, which is why even in an absolutely socialist economy or a communist economy, you would still have to have a communist version of a bank, right, to withhold resources for safety and also to stake them in certain directions as part of some organized, like, communal decision. Like, which is why a lot of the extent like, you know, college lefty versions of communism and stuff kind of fall apart in their econ arguments, because once you get to, hey, how do you exist further past the day and when you live? Fucking like college level commies are like, what do you mean? Like, so if I want to build a building, how do I get all the materials? Like, well, society will provide it. Yeah, but where do they come from? Well, like here and there and blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, well, who transports them, and how do you get them to transport them? If they have to go through an area where they don't have anything on them, like, are they allowed to bank resources while they travel through a place? We're like, well, won't there be people there to give them the resources? Like, no, you're gonna have to try. If you have to cross a desert in a truck, who's gonna give you food on the way? Like, well, yeah, I guess then they can bank resources. Like, how much resources can they bank? Where do you hold on to the resources? How do you do this? And then so you start getting into like, you have to bank resources to some degree. It's a whole thing. This is like, can I have conversations with economists, please? Can I stop talking about fucking... I'm not that smart. I know this is getting out in the weeds, but I'm literally not that fucking smart. But is anybody else in my fucking immediate, like, peer group talking about any of this shit? God damn it. I just realized, like, who else is, like, having a conversation about economics that's even, like, this slightly above journeyman? Fucking God damn it. Like, you're really clapping yourself on the back. I am not. I said like 16 times to go talk to an actual economist about this shit. Either way, I'm sick of talking about fucking pedophile stuff. Can we get rid of the pedophiles so I can talk about dry ass economics and maybe related to fantasy worlds and shit so that we can all have a good time?
You know who wrote? You know who wrote?
You know what? I'm not going to say.
Libertarians unironically want to
The
bring back
Jews.
things like debtors,
That's what
prison, and
you
child
say.
labor. Yeah, they always say it's not going to go that way,
for
but
no
it does.
interest.
Yeah, I mean,
Hell
this
no.
is now a pretty antiquated point of view. Obviously, the entire global financial system is based off of exchanging money.
You know what?
for
You know what
a
you
percentage.
call giving people money without interest?
A gift?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're not getting that money back.
right. Yeah, in the Bible, it says that it's immoral to charge people interest. If they need money, you should just lend it to them. That's what
Clearly,
the idea.
whoever wrote the Bible was broke as fuck. Was
I
trying
famously
not.
said on the show. I famously pointed out on the show once that Jesus was broke. And I dunked on his ass.
What?
You ate him all the way up.
What a fuck? Do people know that?
Oh Jesus.
So yeah, I took this brave stance. I saw this tweet, and it had, and this moment, it got even more, but it had 160,000 likes, 9 million views. So there's a lot of people on Twitter who are like, yeah, this guy's onto something.
Do Americans really know why
Americans
Bin Laden did all that, or do they all believe he hated that they can vote or something? Bro, okay, so like, I think that Osama Bin Laden blew up the Twin Towers just so that he could meet the Navy SEALs in person. Like, when he was part of the Mujahideen in Afghanistan fighting the Russians, like, he always saw like Navy SEALs, right? And he was like, fuck, I want to talk to these guys. But Navy SEALs are like really standoffish and they're in their helicopters and stuff and being cool. And he's like, fuck, how could I meet them? And he's like, if I do a major terror attack in the United States of America on a massive landmark in the largest city on the continent, I bet the Navy SEALs will come visit me. And he was right. Right? It took forever. Fucking George Bush, cocksucking fuck that he is, just refused to arrange the meeting. Fucking Osama Bin Laden's putting up his nicest fucking shit in his cave. He's doing his little videos. Oh, can you come find me? You bet you cannot find me. Oh, cannot find me. Boo, 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 boo. You know, trying to get all the Navy SEALs are fucking like, damn, we're gonna fucking go get him. It's gonna be fun. You're gonna go meet him. This guy, I know this guy. I saw this guy. I saw this guy in 85. I saw this guy in 85. I know this dude. He's a big fan. I can't wait to go meet him. Everyone's excited. George Bush getting in the way. Barack Obama comes in. I'm going to arrange this. So, I heard somebody out here. There's a little birthday boy. We got a little birthday boy out here. All right. Mr. Osama. You know, the guy behind me, the guy before me. All right. He didn't want to set it up. He said he didn't want to set it up. I set it up. Osama, happy birthday. Osama bin Laden's like, woo! That's why 9/11 happened. There is no alternative history happening here, folks. All right? I'm getting you on the point. If I get like fact checked, if I get a little fact check thing like community notes, Osama bin Laden, in fact, did not want to meet SEAL Team 6. It's just underneath the video.
actually know why bin Laden did all that? Or do they believe he hated that they can vote or something? And what's interesting to me is that when I actually read his writings and learned about it, it occurred to me that, like, holy shit, that is kind of why he hates us. Which I think at the time, you know,
fucking Jesus gets too much credit for being poor because he wasn't really. He was the son of fucking God. Okay, so like, Jesus existed in literal post-scarcity. You're like, oh wow, man, he's like one of the people. He lived like, with everyone else. Like, dude, he's just fucking walking around without shoes on, and you bought it. He can literally make fucking bread come out of the sky. And like, if he finds an empty basket, he can fill it full of fish. Like, he lives in post-scarcity existence, just walking around like, Jesus, are you drunk? Like, yeah. Like, how? We're nowhere near anything but water. He's like, you're not near anything but water. You know what I mean? Oh, man. Like, literally, Jesus Christ is the only person in the history of mankind where someone can go like, I fucked your mom. And he goes, no, you didn't. Because nobody did. Like, that's a bullshit, okay? Fucking whitewashing this rich kid. Literal son of God. Everyone's like, dude, he lived amongst the people. He was the son of fucking God. He walked on water. You know what everyone else had to do? Swim. Everyone else had been in that water. They're like, this guy, like, he's like one of us, man. Look, he's wearing like linen and shit. He's got dirty feet. He's out here. He's washing a lot of people's feet. He's washing a lot of feet. But he's hanging out with us, man. And you're like, yeah, how did he get from the fucking boat over there? Oh yeah, like I was out in my boat 2 months ago. It sank because God made a fucking giant storm. And then this asshole's just like, hey, God, Dad, can I call in a favor? And God's just like, oh, yeah, my bad, dude. Did we have a storm going on there? I'm just going to interrupt the natural cycle of the fucking weather so that you can flex on your friend. Jesus Christ is bullshit. Okay? He is not a man of the fucking people. He just had poor friends. This is the opposite of the poor kid with rich friends. To fake it till you make it shit. This motherfucker, everyone else, like, oh shit, what happened? Like, yeah, I had a cousin that drowned. Yeah, well, do you know that fucking God's kid can walk on water? Like, of course he can. And they're all Jewish too, so of course God's kid can fucking walk on water. Moishe, did you hear this? Could you imagine? That's why the Pharisees fucking set him up. You remember all the fucking pissed off Jews watching him fucking, like, just be the boss's kid all day. They're fucking losing their mind. I had to go to work. Do you know I had to walk all the way to Judea the other day? I had to walk all the way to Judea the other day with a basket on my head, a basket of mitzvah on my head. I walked all the way to Judea and back. 5 gold pieces, 5 talents. That's all I get. Son of God shows up to the party, brings nothing but empty baskets, fish and loaves. I have never been more embarrassed in my life. He humiliated me. I brought 4 talents worth of gold. I bought so many grapes. I was humiliated. I tell you, Moira, I was humiliated. I have never been so embarrassed. Look at that. They call him the son of God. My son, he drowned in that lake. He drowned in that lake. He cannot walk on the water. This is the son of God. I thought we were the chosen people. I guess we weren't that chosen then, were we? I guess we weren't chosen that much. He fell in the water. My son went right to the bottom. This guy's kid, he just walked to the shore. He just walked straight to the shore. He's gone. He's gone. He left. What is this? The chosen people Did Moses spend 40 years walking through the... Don't get excited about Moses. I'm going to talk about Moshe. I'm going to talk about Moshe. Moshe walked through the desert for 40 years. He walked through the desert for 40 years. That was my great 15 begats to me. 15 begats to me. Moshe walked through the desert. I'm here. My son from my loins drowns in the water. All the way from Egypt to drown in the water. Son of God walks to the beach. Why not mine? Why not my kid? Is it Woody Allen? Like, absolutely, yeah. Everything I know about Jewish culture, I know from Annie Hall. And that's it. Just messing around. I just think it'd be funny as fuck. Tyler about to host the Daily Show now. Yeah. I think Jesus is a JoJo character as well. He's like mentioned in the 6th one, I think. They have to collect his body parts, and he's also jacked as fuck. The fact that there's no version
seemed
of
like so
Jesus with his
stupid to me.
accent is a crime against God. There has to be Family Guy. Family Guy has to have beat me to this. Family Guy loves fucking. Family Guy is written by a Catholic, and nobody's more offended by Bible stories than Catholics. Catholics want to fuck with the Bible all the goddamn time. And dude, all of you other religions, all you other Christian religions, you only exist because of Catholics being so dissatisfied with the Bible that we started writing fan fiction, and that's why we even have Protestants and Baptists and shit. Don't forget, fucking Martin Luther was a fucking Catholic, all right? You all are Lutherans. He was a Catholic. Jesus was a Jew.
Like, oh, they hate us for our freedoms. Like, what does it mean? But he says it right in his fucking thing, and I'll show that to you. I said, he did quite literally hate Americans because they could vote and had freedoms. He specifically states in his writings the reasons: homosexuality, lack of Sharia law, drug use, lending of money, and letting Jews run the country, or the world, frankly. Please read his writings before regurgitating tanky talking points and running defense for a mass-murdering, homophobic, anti-Semitic piece of shit. Fuck Bin Laden. Anyone trying to rewrite history. Well, can you imagine? People started lining up to die on this hill of defending Bin Laden. I continued, by the way. So I wanted to provide some excerpts from his letter.
Parting the Red
said,
Sea is a
calling you to do?
Beyblade plot
What do we
line.
want
Oh my
from you?
God.
He goes on to express the kind of conservative moral panic and righteous.
Eastern Church exists. The Byzantines are. That's a lie. There are no Byzantine. There are no Byzantine Catholics. This has never happened. There's only the Roman Catholic Church. Rumors of another Catholic church or the existence of any church before the Roman Catholic Church are greatly exaggerated. These are whispers in history. These are maledictions. They're confused moments, vapors that you're breathing that come from the earth. Clearly, the devil himself has got his hands in your daily bread. You've lost your mind. There is no Eastern Church in Ba Sing Se.
That it's hard to believe a TikTok or whatever sport. That's true. We call on you to be a people of manners, principles, honor, and purity, to reject the immoral acts of fornication, homosexuality, intoxicants, gambling, and trading with interest.
Fuck, dude. A lot of my favorite things.
Dude,
I'm going to create my own new
you are the worst
religion without
civilization witnessed by
blackjack
the
or
history of
hookers.
mankind. And then here's another one. Just again, he wrote a lot more, and it's all about. Most of it is like shit like this. The first thing that we are calling you to do is to. Sorry, let me reread that. The first thing that we are calling you to is Islam, complete submission to Islamism, and of the discarding of all the opinions, orders, theories, religions which contradict with your religion. Bin Laden later railed against the U.S. Constitution, lamenting, "You are the nation who, rather than ruled by the Sharia of Allah and its constitution laws, choose to invent your own laws and will as you desire." I mean, you know,
Democracy.
that you know, it's worth. Let's not oversimplify things to the point where Osama bin Laden's the good guy. I mean,
I think that's
and as a
even
Jewish person,
simplified. That's like
I have a hard
complicating
time
them.
just like accepting the fact that a guy who believed that like all Jews
My
are
godfather
evil
was a
and run
Benedictine
the
monk.
world,
Are they allowed to
the world,
smash?
right?
I guess he's a godfather.
That this
so
is like a
he doesn't
basic
have
guy.
to.
You know, I'm not just. Anyway, whatever. So I was like, nobody's gonna actually die on this hill. It just annoys me, but they did.
I mean, just as an American, you should have a problem with that.
You know, like on one hand, like I understand that America fucked with the Middle East a lot, and in a sense reaped what it sowed. But on the other hand, this guy is a terrorist who fucking hates Western democracy, liberal democracy, freedom, rights for people, and that is not what the fuck we're about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, also as an Arab or a Muslim growing up after 9/11, like Osama bin Laden has always been like the idea of like evil in my mind, you know, for obvious reasons, like a lot of Americans, but also because what he did to our people, like and how people look at us and all the abuse that we've gone through because of him. And Islam itself, just not going to go into too deep about this, but Islam means peace. And Islam is all about, for religious people, is about you're supposed to share, you could share the knowledge, but never force someone by any means to become a Muslim.
Interesting.
So just
By any means? So not flying an airplane?
No,
into
yeah,
the
none of
building?
that. That doesn't count.
That doesn't count.
Yeah.
Interesting. They thought that would. We're like, oh shit. Well, you better. You know what? I'm seeing these guys are onto something after like 9/11. This cheese is spicy.
Yeah, I mean, if I want to extend a little bit of grace to some of these people that I'm assuming have not actually taken the time to fully read his manifesto or his writings or whatever, You know, there are parts of it where he's critiquing, you know, U.S. imperialism and messing with countries in the Middle East, like you said, and it can come across as like, okay, he's making some points here, but like you have to read on. Like you can't just read like you can't read the back cover on this one. Like you should delve a little bit deeper, because the further you read, the more it's like, oh, he's fucking insane. Okay.
Yes, exactly. So the first thing I saw was this dude named Comrade Casey, whose response to, and again, I'm showing his literal words. Comrade Casey says, Ethan Klein has never heard of historical analysis. And I'm thinking, like, we can analyze it all we want. That's his literal words. Like, he's just like, I hate Jewish people and I want to kill people who have freedoms, who aren't following Sharia law all the time. And they're like, well, what did he really mean by that?
Yeah, I don't really see Osama bin Laden as like a complicated figure, and it's kind of crazy that anybody's trying to like whitewash Osama bin Laden. Particularly the fact that the people that are trying to whitewash him all have goddamn Palestinian flags in their bios just feels like an op to me. Like, the uncommitted Palestinian activists are like the most anti-Muslim people on earth. Because like, if you're just thinking about it, like, you can blame America for doing the most naturally American thing ever, which is violently reacting to an attack on American soil, which is literally what we can be pissed about. The Iraq war, okay? Illegal war. Afghanistan, a fuck up. Global war on terror in general, bad. But also, with your criticisms of those, they didn't just randomly happen. There was not like, it wasn't just, hey man, it's a sunny day in September 11th, 2001. A day where nothing happened. September 12th occurs, and then you're like, you know what? Hey, everybody, we should all just start flying American flags, murdering Muslim people in the street, and then go and invade two different countries that have next to nothing to do with each other for 20 years. We should just, like, you guys just want to do that? Like, there was a very inciting incident that was one of the most incitingest incidents of all time. People are still dying from 9/11. As a matter of fact, I think it was like 3 or 4 days ago, a woman from a famous photograph, the Dust Woman, succumbed to cancer. A woman in her 40s who was covered in like just shit that had burned in the World Trade Center. She's completely coated in it. She had died of cancer in her 40s. People all throughout New York City are fucking dropping like flies from exposure cancer. They're not even all in New York anymore, but anybody that was in fucking Manhattan, downwind of that shit for the fucking month or so after the World Trade Center got knocked down are still dying of cancer. So it's like the death toll continues to rise from 9/11. It happened in 2001. It's 23 years ago. People that fucking were born on that day have children now. Married with children. You know, legally post 18-year-old 3-year-olds. You know what I mean? It's like, that is how long it's still dying from that specifically. America was pissed about that. And the guy who said he did it got on a video camera, said why, taunted America, and said, like, this is the will of the Muslims of the world, basically. And Americans went like, oh yeah, well, I want to fucking start killing those people because, like, Americans are stupid. He knew that Americans would react violently. Osama bin Laden wanted Americans to kill Muslims. Specifically, he wanted them to kill Muslims in the Muslim Holy Land, which, depending on who you're talking to, is every fucking ounce of sand in the Mesopotamian desert and, like, the just entirety of the supercontinent of Afro-Eurasia, like that entire chunk, you know what I mean? Depending on who you're fucking talking to. He wanted us to kill Muslims because he thought that it would cause a mass uprising of Muslims against the West, the same way that him starting a fight with us would go in that direction. But of course, like, Americans eventually stopped being sociopaths. Sort of, kind of. He was a sociopath until the day he died, right? And millions upon fucking, well, I don't know, probably just like millions, literal millions, I don't know, millions upon millions, like 4 million plus, I don't know. Millions of people died millions of people died as a result of that and the wars that followed because, yeah, he did prey upon the worst instincts of not just Americans, but of American policymakers of the time. But he intentionally did that knowing what would happen. The fact that it did is not removable in any shape, way, or form from his actions. Like Osama bin Laden actively went to try to he baited Americans into killing fucking Muslim people in Iraq and Afghanistan. And to some degree, that was the intent of certain policymakers, was literally like, just fuck, we just need to see dead Muslims because like that'll make our fucking voter base be happy. Other people were like, we want oil. Other people were just like shocked by it and wanted vengeance. It's a very complicated thing that happened to 300 million some odd fucking Americans at the time. Very much Osama bin Laden's fault. If he had not done 9/11, America would not have had a reason to go back into Iraq or Afghanistan as well. Like it just literally wouldn't have materialized. Fucking Muammar Gaddafi might still be alive. Like that's how fucking that's how big the bomb he set off was. It was 2 planes hitting buildings, and that's how big that bomb is. You know what I mean? And just trying to say like, man, maybe he had a point. Like that is the most I'm trying to make my conservative dad angry level of like, I don't get politics. I think I've heard in the probably in my lifetime. It's kind of crazy. The edgy Osama bin Laden was right take is fucking psychotic. Let's continue.
It's like he said what he fucking meant. It's obnoxious, but this isn't actually the most obnoxious.
Did you see what happened in Lebanon? Are the Israelis fucking trying to like pulverize Lebanon again? I'm gonna guess that's probably what's happening. I'll cover that in a second.
Comes everybody's favorite Hasan moderator, 2-time rising star. Let's make it 3. Frogan.
My wife just lost a colleague who went down to help identify the bodies who developed cancer from the
Are you
incident.
sure she's 2 times?
Yes, I even fact checked it. I even fact checked it. She won back to back. Here, let's do a double fact check.
I think she only won it once.
No, hold on. Rising Star Award twice.
Oh, she was nominated.
So she won once and was nominated the next year.
Yeah.
So she didn't win twice.
Which is crazy. Do you guys know about that controversy? Like, there's a not remotely crazy conspiracy theory that like Hasan is overfavored by Twitch for some reason. Like, I don't know what it is, if it's like they agree with his politics or he makes them money or what. But basically, if you're under the Hasan umbrella of companies, basically, right, you get like way too much preference, and it's like very difficult for you to get like banned and stuff. And like Hasan can get away with saying some crazy shit compared to other people of his size and disposition, you know, and like what he covers. And so like Frogan, who is they'll probably bring her up in a second. She's like a Hasan orbiter. She's notable. I've talked about her on here before. She's won the like Rising Star Award one time and been nominated twice. And she routinely has like less than 100 fucking concurrents on her program. When people talk about her, like she's a big Twitter presence as like a lefty repost bot in a fucking like Hasan waiting room. But like she gets next to no views. Like it's a crazy lack of views, like, to the point where I was like, can I not find her real account? And they're like, no, this is it. Like she's smaller than me. Her YouTube's like 4.8 thousand. I think I actually have it tagged in the episode description. Hold on. Frogan. Like, dude, her actual account doesn't even show the fuck up immediately. Frogan YouTube channel. God damn. Irrelevant news. I'm going to go ahead and play this.
So, I mean, it's still funny. Mm-hmm. But I guess not as funny. Well, it's been long enough. Let's get her back on the ballot.
Dude, what the fuck?
She said,
tagged this.
so here I am saying, actually, Osama bin Laden bad. And her response was, this motherfucker never shuts up. Oh, my God.
I mean, you could shut up yourself. Just saying, but like.
Well, every time I've gotten into it with her, she has started and to put herself in the middle of a charged conversation that I'm having. And then every time I say, okay, let's engage, then she's like, I can't believe he would focus on a smaller creator. It's like, listen, just stop talking shit. You know, this is the girl who was on in Hasan's Discord saying Ethan hates Arabs because I unfollow.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to even find. I guess she doesn't have any content on YouTube is why. Maybe she's different on Twitch.tv. On YouTube, she doesn't have any content, but she has 5.62 thousand subscribers, I guess. Why I left Twitch. Frogan, shut up. On Twitch, she's got 58.6K followers. But, like, look at this. Look at these numbers. They're fucking, like, pitiful. I mean, she's doing better than me on Twitch, but I don't focus on Twitch at all. I'm on YouTube. 3.2K views 6 days ago. 290 views from 6 days ago. 4.3K views. I guess this was, like, an accidental. But, I mean, this is a 5.5 hour podcast. Or a 5.5 hour show, right? With only 3.2K. I got 3.2K yesterday just talking shit, you know? And I don't have anywhere near this amount of 58.6K followers. Nobody's watching her. Like, it's very, very weird. 4.3, 2.290, 696, 1.1, 1.4, 4.3, 290. Like, how in the fuck are you a rising star and I can't find you? Like, you get what I'm saying when I'm like, it's suspicious? It has nothing to do with her ethnicity, her disposition, nothing. It's just literally like, how in the fuck? What is happening that you got a rising star award? Why are you appearing on other people's shows and you're a fucking nobody? You're like a fucking Hasan reply guy that no one is actually genuinely interested in watching. Like, you don't see react videos to her unless someone else is like talking about her Twitter shit, because no one watches her streams. These numbers are crazy. Like, they're crazy low, and she doesn't even fucking stream that much, it seems. Like, it's wild. How do you have fucking 56,000 fucking followers? You know what I mean? Imagine having a 5.5 hour tipathon. Yeah, Hasan got away with saying cracker, the N-word of whites. Oh, man. Yeah, did Destiny get kicked out? Well, Destiny's fucking Cuban, right? He's Latino, so he can't say that's our word, all right? He's got to fucking Spanish it up or something. Called it like fucking El Dorito or whatever the fuck. How do you guys say cracker in Spanish? The food. Thank you.
Followed her on Twitter. And remember where this all started. I quietly unfollowed her on Twitter because I did not want any issues. She was posting stuff about October 7 that I thought was distasteful and was upsetting to me. And so I silently unfollowed her.
It's on his best friends with QT Cinderella, who runs the
and
Twitch
from that,
Awards.
she started, shitting and pissing and saying that I'm Islamophobic, that I hate Arabs, and that all this kinds of stuff. And it's like, okay, well, let me say something about that.
What's up, Ibernia Scholar? Explosive Beepers. Also good to see you after your break. Hello.
So, of course, I had to respond here. And I said, here's what I said. I said, tankies falling over themselves to defend Osama bin Laden should tell you all you need to know about their movement. And you really do. It's like, you can make...
fucking Ethan Klein, fucking special ed motherfucker. Spelled tankies with a Y. Why does that get me? Why is that funny? That TANKYS, this motherfucker, dude. I swear to God.
Like, give historical analysis. But this guy is literally saying, like, wow, are you dumb that he hated us for our freedoms? And it's like, well, he did. And other things.
Yeah,
so
you've
what
never
the fuck
heard
do
of
you
a
mean?
historical
Anyway,
analysis. Like, just analyze the history. Like, motherfucker just said that shit. It's kind of crazy.
Here is Frogan telling me to shut up when don't shut your mouth when you're criticizing Osama bin Laden. I said, this is a Hasan mod telling me, a Jewish man, to shut the fuck up because I dare to say Osama bin Laden was bad and hated Jews. Please understand this is why leftovers and...
Is it... Fuck, dude. Okay. I know gringo would be the, like, word for me. I actually legitimately want to know what the word for a cracker, like a saltine, would be. Galleta is great, but fucking El Saltino. El Saltino would be the most fire shit. If I was introduced on a podcast, like, Tyler Bell, El Saltino. El Gran Saltino.
And that her voice is not fringe within his community. And yeah, I mean, I've never come out and said it explicitly, but it is kind of, I think I have more or less, but like, yeah, I mean, his community is the reason that I no longer wanted to do the show. It was not all of it, but like a large contingency of it was really, in my opinion, not something I wanted to be involved in.
The dialogue that they were having about us was pretty wild.
It was, in my opinion, not something I wanted to be involved in, and not something I certainly wanted to have on my channel and promote and have people entering a community that says such things about me. You know what I mean? Like, now I don't believe Hasan has these views, but or at least he doesn't voice these views. I don't believe he does. He's more thoughtful. But a lot of people, for some reason, in his community, do have these views, and I continued on here. And again, as a Jewish man in a time of rising anti-Semitism, like, who the fuck are these people to tell me what is and isn't anti-Semitic and what I should and shouldn't be offended by? Like, imagine lecturing any other minority group on like what is and isn't okay. And this whole Zionism thing is just so fucked up. It's basically a purity test on Jews. You got to be, are you a good Jew or a bad Jew? So in what world is that normal to be like, sorry, no Zionists, death to Zionists? So you go to all these campuses, no Zionists allowed. So they're saying, are you a good Jew or are you a bad Jew? That's the conversation. And again, I emphasize this because I don't think people appreciate it, but 90% of the world's Jews would be considered Zionist. And I think that the whole Zionist thing is like again, not all Zionists are anti-Semitic, but a lot of anti-Semites are using this Zionism cover as like an easy backdoor to being like deeply anti-Semitic. Because again, you're doing a purity check on me saying, are you the good Jew or the bad Jew? And that's just fucking insane. You can't do that to anyone else. And again, it's 90%. That part of the propaganda is they convincing people that Zionism is not the majority of Jewish people and that it's some fringe belief and stuff. But in actuality, it's 90% of Jews who support Israel. And if they were overtly hating 90% of an ethnic group, that would make them racist. So it's kind of like a mind trick to allow them to be racist without having to be racist. And again,
it's also the way the word is being used. I don't feel like
it's being deployed like a slur. Yeah.
If somebody says that to me,
I get called that all the time.
It feels like
I'm fucking zoning out. I was reading the fucking Discord chat. God damn it. I'm trying to care. I'm trying to give a fuck. I think I kind of described the entire situation without even bringing these guys up. This entire subsection exists to justify all of the things I said earlier.
Like a bad word.
Oh, it is. They use it like that. And again, I'm a Jew who is like, by any means, certainly if I am Zionist, the least Zionist of all of them. But I get called a Zionist up and down the fucking internet all day, every day, by Nick Fuentes people, by Sneeko people, and by Hasan people. You know? And like, I shouldn't have to fucking take it. You know?
Fuck me.
They use it like that.
Hey,
and again, I'm a Jew.
Whoops.
Who is...
Well, it's already 4:06. We started a little late.
Is there anything else here?
I was just talking. Just that she complains when I talk about her that I'm a big disgusting shit being said about them. Way Steve will do it to moderate my chat and to lead conversations in my Discord, and I don't endorse him. Like if Steve will
most
do
of
it,
it's just
say something racist.
Most of it's just fucking old
racist.
Ethan belly aching here a little bit, which is fine. I mean, he's earned it. God, that's why. Fucking hurts my goddamn ears. Oh, I got a fucking headache today. Ooh, too much singing, too many voices. That's what it is. Tyler, you got to cut it out. Stop doing cringe things for attention on the internet. Yeah, I think in summation, the rest of that was pretty solid. Me talking, I think, from the beginning as an explainer, and then you can kind of just see from the videos. It's an exhausting controversy, but I think it deserves to be brought up because there needs to be more pushback against this shit because we really are experiencing a trash content wave from some of the biggest creators on the left. You know what I mean? If we talk about like the tripartite fucking overlords of lefty fucking content online, Destiny's the only one that's putting out anything fucking worthwhile. And if you hate him, then you're not getting shit, because fucking Vosh is on one. His content's just been basically like anti-left, fucking imperialist screed bullshit, anti-class stuff, and his fucking audience is a bunch of dipshits that are eating it up for some reason. And Hasan has been basically on the IP kick for the entirety of the last near year, to a point where he's really overplayed his position and maybe possibly permanently damaged his career by making himself and his audience look like fucking psychos that you shouldn't work with. Like, if I was another big creator, I would not risk working with Hasan. Like, I would be polite with him, you know what I mean? And chill. But like, me personally, I wouldn't give a fuck. I wouldn't work with him on principle, but like, if I was like a non-political person, I still don't think I would fuck with him, because you see anyone that's coming across his audience, you have to start like changing your entire tune about stuff to fit in with their expectations of what is required of a creator, right? So you see like the Brad Taste in Music is a good example of, he's like a non-entity type person, politically speaking. And he has his own problems as an individual, but like the people fucking hardcore ganging up on him about the Ethan and Ela Klein hate, that shit comes from Hasan's side of the internet when you're right there. Because fucking Nick Fuentes and Sneeko fans are their own little breed of turds. And if Fuentes or Sneeko aren't talking about you immediately, like, you're not going to run into them. Whereas Hasan has a much larger audience, and they tend to spread out into the immediate areas around him, because they're not also specifically misogynists and or like hardcore anti-Semitic racists on the face of the kind of content that they want and produce. So they kind of like slip in, and then all of a sudden you find yourself getting fucking like absolutely obliterated because you had like a few nice words with Hasan or something. You find yourself getting obliterated because you're not like coming out hardcore against whatever the most recent development is in the the Israel-Palestine conflict. You know what I mean? Like, which is bad, but you're gonna have to start finding yourself doing like these weird mea culpas all the time, which you've seen from a few different like creators, and especially from like specifically from Ethan. And I think that that's a permanent L, because that's not like, it's not just like Hasan did something that's going to be like lightly offensive. It's like, you're going to have to make a cost benefit analysis of whether or not you're going to get a sudden boost of money and attention that is going to come with basically like a die-hard moral clause attached to it. Like, literally, you cannot step out of line of these 4 or 5 different positions, because if you do, you're not going to be able to talk about anything that you want to talk about anymore. And if you're not in politics, you're fucked. Like, if it happens to somebody like a fucking Destiny or a Vosh or a Hasan, where you're all of a sudden like, oh shit, I've got to address these political issues specifically, then like, okay, that's still in your wheelhouse. But like, if it happens to somebody where, a good one is, he's in my community. He's a nice guy. I talked to him. My brain just completely fell out of my head. The fucking motorcycle guy. God damn it. We're fucking talking. This is not me being a big timer or anything. I just legitimately forget. Squid Tips. God damn it. Squid Tips. If you were like a guy like Squid Tips, right? And this isn't me like giving him career advice, but if say that you didn't make mostly motorcycle content with some politics like thrown in, and you weren't anywhere near as lefty as he was. Imagine that kind of content, and you were like a little bit more center left lib, and you hung out with Hasan. Hasan says you're fucking cool as shit. All right, cool. And then you get like a big boost, like 20 or 30K people, a now sizable chunk of a like 250K audience. You get up to, we'll just say 300K. So you have this gigantic chunk. Oh, fuck, cool. I got this new boost of people. But then that comes with the expectations of a level of pretty fucking extreme loyalty to Hasan and Hasan's positions. And you may not even realize it until months or so down the road that like, oh, well, yeah, this thing happened and I just don't know how I feel about it. And then all of a sudden you're getting fucking obliterated, like hardcore harassed over a political take you haven't even just thought through. And people are treating it like a massive moral failing. And they're a part of your community. And now they're talking to your community as community members. And all of a sudden, like, you don't get to talk about like motorcycle shit anymore. Or if you're like a book creator, you don't get to talk about book stuff, music. All of a sudden now you're like, why the fuck am I making like 3 goddamn apology videos about fucking Israel Palestine. I don't even talk about Israel Palestine. What did I even say? You know what I mean? But it's like, oh shit, I don't know if you know this, but this person was like connected to this guy. And that's kind of the danger of dealing with Hasan, and why kind of like Hasan's style of content needs to be pushed back against. Because if you like the politics that he's putting out, okay, but imagine it's not perfectly that kind of politics. And we start supporting that kind of creator getting better, where you have these hypermassive individual creators that can kind of like make and destroy careers, and then they have a entire ecosystem of sycophants that exist literally just to reply guy harass you on Twitter and drum up controversy to get love from him. That's like one of the things. Frogan will start a fight just so that Hasan will come out, support her, and then she can suck up fucking like, I need to afford my apartment donos. You know what I mean? Like, they'll start fights to get fucking attention on them, positive attention from their creator. They don't give a fuck about the careers of other people. And basically, if you're within the massive target environment of anybody that's not perfectly aligned with me ideologically, they can either hard attack you, or if you're just slightly making a mistake, soft attack you in a way to force you to make a mea culpa, right? This is really what people are talking about when they talk about cancel culture. It's really more of the moral extortion culture, moral extortion of celebrities. You know what I mean? Even niche internet micro celebrities. That's the point of it. And the thing is that's the entire focus and onus of Hasan's community, which was born from semi-respectable ends. You know, people were really concerned about Donald Trump. People were really concerned about the election. And the non-progressive aspects of the Democratic Party. And like, people wanted to see more AOC shit. They wanted to see more Bernie shit. And they wanted to see more political action from young people. And they wanted to see more young people desires in the political space. And, you know, there's a lot of different directions that desire went, and was knocked down, was received well, was successful, was unsuccessful, what have you. Some of that went in the direction of like Hasan style content, which you see to a slightly smaller degree with like Voosh and some of those orbiter types, you know what I mean? People that kind of fell off in 2022 is right around where that is. And then Hasan's kind of keeping it up by saying way, way, way too hot about everything that he can stay hot about, which keeps his audience engaged. In between the dry spells of there's nothing politically exciting going on, so we're gonna watch JCPS Criminal Psychology for fucking 2 hours, you know, JCP, whatever the fuck. JCPS is Jefferson County Public Schools, from where I used to live. And cough, anti-piker cough, what is that? That user made it where no civil discussion on IP could happen, is they would go full Hasan talking points. Yeah, that's the issue. Is also like the lack of ability to see people with any like level of grace, you know, or entertain the possibility that you could be wrong, or that you might not understand everything that's going on as well as you do, and that you're not helping, you know, which is the biggest issue with the uncommitted Palestine movement. It's why I call these people Hasan fans, even if a bunch of them have never heard of Hasan. It's such an interconnected sub-community of American politics that first off, I kind of wouldn't believe that they've never heard of Hasan, but also more than likely they're spurred on by people whose politics are so similar to him. It doesn't really matter because you're kind of attacking the same issues when you get to it, and you never have enough words to actually describe everything accurately. Or they're inspired by people who are inspired by Hasan, or inspired by down the line. You know what I mean? It kind of spreads out sideways and then trickles down onto them. And I think that this is a bad content site. I think it's trash content, which you can kind of see because not only is it just uninteresting, it's boring. It's the most boring drama I talked about today. Recounting off memory, Bo Blacks v. fucking Nick Diorio, which is supposed to be Larryx v. Nick Diorio. Just off the top of my head is way more fucking interesting than watching these guys talk about their massive multi-100,000, multi-million member communities fucking going to war over like extremely fucking immediate political issues of the day. It's fucking dull. And it's why? It's because nobody really like, if either people don't believe in what they think they believe in, or they don't understand what they believe in enough to really actually believe in it. I think there's tons of people that are in the uncommitted Palestine supporter caucus kind of spread out throughout America that don't even realize that they don't understand any of the issues or how to change them. Like, and they think that just knowing that like Palestine is getting the shaft by Israel is like sufficient. And that's just not the case. And it's not knowing like the entirety of the history. It's just understanding the mechanics of all of what's happening around you in order to actually achieve change through, you know, motivated action or action motivated by your intense political dislike of the current climate. And it's bad. And so like that, all of that failure that we're going to see, October's coming up. And once October comes up, one of my little I'm going to start making some mini docs, some mini essays, really quick ones, to try to highlight stuff so I don't have to do it on here. I can make it bite-sized because you never know when I'm going to burst into fucking song. But basically that's where we're going to find out if a bunch of these protests that made people went to jail for and made them look like assholes actually achieved the specific goals that they set out to achieve. Because I'm not giving anybody credit for raised awareness in the era of the internet. I'm just not. I'm just like, I literally can't give you any credit for raised awareness of anything in any direction if it's something that's already on the internet and people are literally talking about every fucking day. You know what I mean? So like, I want to see actual like change. I said fucking 4 months ago, 3 months ago, whatever the fuck it was, I think it started in March, that these people that said that they're going to get fucking people to convene in October, I'm actually going to double check. I go a little bit deeper than reading just the headlines, guys. So don't send me any headlines where you're like, look, this has proved it, and then not read the story. You'll actually fucking irritate the shit out of me, and I will mock you by name. We're going to see how effective that was. And the biggest issue is if they're not effective, what you're going to see is an unnecessary sense of disenfranchisement, because these people that are getting upset, they're going to be disappointed that all of that sacrifice that they made, their time, their effort, their anger, their energy, the money that they could have been making working, the time that they could have been spending doing anything else, all of that kind of stuff. When they see the loss of that turn into nothing, it's going to turn into what I call unnecessary political disenfranchisement, like an unnecessary sense of political disenfranchisement. You're going to start believing, this is the issue. This is why I tell people to be cautious of overextending yourself on middling, emotional, political action that doesn't directly cause change. Like protest. Protest can be good. Protest can achieve stuff, but just having a protest does not mean you will achieve your goals at all. It just literally, you have to like, that's just an aspect of the entire equation. If it doesn't equal change, then you can probably fucking remove it or some other aspect of it to actually achieve the end result. The problem is when you put a lot of effort into something that you've convinced yourself is the only way to do something, you will now feel disenfranchised by the system, because the system in your mind told you that protest specifically, or if it's even some other thing, that voting specifically will cause this actual change, and you don't understand enough about the system. You just thought that specifically doing this one thing will cause the change. When you don't see that change immediately happen, you will experience unnecessary disenfranchisement. There is necessary disenfranchisement. Like, oh, okay, yeah, literally, I have been disenfranchised. Somebody took my ability to make change away from me. I've lost my vote. I've lost my right to protest. I've lost my right to own guns. Some people will consider that necessary disenfranchisement. But in this other case, that unnecessary disenfranchisement that is it's avoidable by understanding the limitations of the effort you can put into the system. That is very politically negative overall. It is really what a lot of foreign actors want to achieve in the American government, making people feel that the systems don't represent them, that they will never represent them, that they could never, that no good change has ever occurred because of the intervention of the American government in the lives of the people who exist inside of its service district, which is just simply not the fucking case. You just don't see the good things happening, because most of the time when government works, you don't notice it. Like when government is functioning, it's a thing that you don't pay attention to. It's like the motor in your refrigerator. You haven't thought about it until I mentioned it right now. But if the motor in your refrigerator went out and it stopped being a refrigerator, it's all you would think about. You know what I'm saying? It's the same sort of thing. And so getting people to hyper focus on ineffectual political action so that they expend all of their effort in that direction and give up basically on the system itself, they'll become hostile to the system going forward, which is how you generate terrorists. That's the whole point of it, right? It's one of the aspects of fifth columning a government. Now, these kind of issues can happen naturally. Sometimes literally just the government does disenfranchise you, and then like terrorism is actually a legitimate fucking reaction to the situation at hand. You know what I mean? It's a tool to create political change. It should be the last one you use because it's just basically flipping the chessboard and then trying to stack as many pieces on your side as possible while someone's stabbing you in the side of the fucking head with an ice pick. Not always the best decision, but if it's the only decision you can make, it's the only decision you can make. If you get convinced that the one other thing you thought would change everything was the only way, and it was truly the only way, then when that's taken away from you, the ice pick to the side of the head chess match is going to actually seem like the only thing that you can do, whether or not it's great, because you'll feel actually unnecessarily disenfranchised. That's kind of the point of all of this stuff. And it's why Hasan's content's trash content. It is about getting yourself way too fucking fired up about things you cannot immediately change and trying to convince you that certain minor actions that are occurring are the only way to change things. Like Hasan's entire content cycle is consistently about trying to defeat Americans' confidence in America while providing no way forward. Like Hasan does not teach his fucking audience how to effectively change anything because he doesn't understand how to effectively change anything in the first place. His entire method of political action, even when it comes to interviewing people, is just purity testing. It's just, if we can't find a pure candidate to be elected, and then the pure candidate can't beat the impure system, then the system is bad and the system has to go, and you should feel defeated. You should feel broken. And then on the few occasions where we get a win, we can all celebrate for all of 5 days, and then we have to feel bad again. So no matter what, you're always taking 6 steps down, even when you take 1 step back up. It's a spiral to the bottom because it's all vibes based. It doesn't have anything to do with reality. So even when the vibes are on or off, there's no recurrent system to make you re-experience the vibes that actually exists outside of his subculture he's created on the internet. So you get lost in the sauce, so to say. And you're like, damn, I just want those good feels again. Or I want the comfortable bad feels back. I like the porcupine that stabs me the right way when I hug it. And it trash content. This is why you see fucking Hasan fans delving into terroristic action, into performative cruelty. Like literally, Frogan is a moderator in his community. If I had any of my moderators acting the way she would do, I would fire you and I would fucking harass you from my position for acting like that. I would be shocked. I would be shocked. That's why don't defend me, but also like, don't be a fucking psycho like that. Like, god damn. To tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, as a notable member of my community, when he supports her, he shows you that her performative cruelty, her flirting with and sometimes engaging in like anti-Semitism, her flirting with and engaging in pro-terrorist fucking talking points, like literally coming out. There is no argument. His entire community is becoming more and more pro-terrorism. Like coming out in favor of Osama bin Laden isn't a standpoint where you can take multiple interpretations of it. That's just being literally pro-terrorism. You're pro the guy who did the biggest terrorism on American soil in American history. Like, unless you want to get crazy, and actually it was, us killing all the Native Americans, I guess, if you want to consider that a terrorism. I consider it a genocide, but it is what it is. That's kind of where you end up. And so, like, you shouldn't be surprised that people feel like the only way to achieve any sort of political change is to be performatively cruel and to be threatening on occasion, to engage in self-justified anti-Semitism as, non-Semitic peoples. You know what I mean? Like literally just, or sometimes even as Semitic peoples, to engage in that kind of racist rhetoric and stuff. Hasan, in trying to combat the forces of fascism in his own mind, I think, has taken all of the toolbook or all of the toolkit, the playbook of fascism, and put it into play in his community without any regard to the ultimate ends that it's going to achieve. Like, he is a person that has threatened a sitting U.S. senator with a picture of a gun, which he didn't apologize for or say was wrong in any way in front of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. He supports a person who is pro-terrorism, not just Frogan, who's come out in favor of Osama bin fucking Laden, and has come out in favor of Hamas. Frogan said that it was fucking based as shit that Hamas murdered random innocent civilians at the during October 7th. She's like, oh yeah, I think it was what you guys talk about. You want to see a revolution in action, and then when you see a revolution, you're like, oh, I don't want it anymore. That's not a revolution. Killing random workers is not a revolution from a leftist perspective. I guess if you're just a Islamo-fascist, probably, yeah, a Muslim supremacist, then that's probably kind of fucking slaps. Seeing all those Jews get fucking slaughtered at a fucking festival, and then justifying it for months after the fact. But like, that's a major player in his community. That's a person he's come out and supported. It's also a person that Twitch has supported twice, which is fucking real weird, like very, very strange. And then also, like, you've platformed a Houthi. Houthis are terrorists. He's like, you promoted a fucking actual pirate, uncritically, of crimes that the guy might commit against legitimately non-combatants. You can make a weird fucking fascist argument for whether or not somebody's innocent, but once you find yourself arguing like, how innocent or not are these non-combatants, you are engaging in pre-genocide rhetoric, which is something that Hasan's community has done. Pre-genocidal rhetoric, literally, some of that people can say from the river to the sea is not a hate crime, hate chant, but there's plenty of people that fucking hate Jews and hate Israelis that consider it a fucking genocide chant. They're like, no, that's what it is. Maybe not everybody, but like, literally, some of the people are like, no. This is we're talking about putting everybody that's in Israel that's an Israeli to the sword that doesn't leave. Some people do, some people don't. And that's pre-genocidal rhetoric. That's pro-terrorist rhetoric. It's basically throwing out the law of land warfare and throwing out the possibility of diplomacy in favor of terrorism, in favor of threats, in favor of harassment, in favor of basically untoward actions, which are never going to accomplish what you want because you don't have enough of a majority, period, to ever accomplish the political ends that you want to. Like, you were literally rejected by the political party that's closest aligned to you. Like, they kicked you out, like literally kicked you out of their fucking clubhouse during the most important night of the year. Which is a very big statement that the uncommitted Palestine movement is politically non-functional. They're cancerous. They're literally like an infectious fucking disease that will damage communities that they're invited into. They will damage political programs and political actions that they are attached to. They will do anything that they want in the moment because they think it's correct, because they have switched from fucking non-vibes based materialist action to vibes based materialist or vibes based ideological action, to literally, there is what ontologically is good, which is my goal, and then anything that gets in the way of it or that tries to supersede it or tries to slow it down is not, which is one of the best reasons to not let any of those people or anyone that's aligned to them speak at one of your functions, because they're going to use that to their own political ends, as most people will, but you already know what those political ends will be in their case, which is doing whatever the fuck comes to their mind in the moment, and nothing that is ever going to give one single iota of a second thought to what you're trying to accomplish, which is antithetical to allyship. That's what an ally is. You reach hands. So I'm not going to ally with your political project because you people are fucking psychopaths. And you're pro-violence, you're pro-terrorism, a lot of you guys are anti-Semitic, and you're also not, you don't have any majority status anywhere. So like, there's literally nothing to gain with allying with you, and you can only lose because of how fucking like bizarrely violent and like harassing and psychotic y'all come off as. So like that's it. And the thing about Hasan's community is it's not done with like the uncommitted Palestine movement. Hasan is going to bring that same energy to anything that is politically expedient to him. So that's one of the other reasons to kind of kick him out of the party is he will hijack any movement, not because he wants to, but because it's going to be endemic to how he exists as a person. He will hijack any and every movement that he ever comes across, him and his community, to their own ends, because they now approach politics and they approach reality from this specific type of direction. And when they continuously do that, that means every time in the future you run the risk, if you ally with Hasan on a political point, you run the risk of poisoning your entire movement, your own community, and maybe even your own personal reputation by allowing his people in with you. That doesn't mean that every single Hasan fan is some like brain fucking like completely skull empty zombie that's just doing anything that he says. It's much more nefarious and much more like complicated than that. It's all about the core stuff at the top, and then it bleeds down through the people. So you kind of can't like, you really just have to be quarantiney of his entire community from a distance. You know what I mean? Like, and be very, very cautious about interacting with it. Of all the communities, VGG is gross, but I feel like there's a lot of salvageable people in VGG kind of coming up against it. DGG is everywhere. That's one of the most weirdly median voter type communities out there. And that's why people are driven fucking crazy by them. Their normie energy is too high, so they're like deeply offensive to online people. But Hasan's community is the one I would not want to really have almost any crossover with. Because, you know, even in Hasan, like old Vosh's shit's disintegrating. And so like a lot of his like what you consider orbiters and like even some of the white leaf people, like I have no problem with Dylan Burns, Shark 3-0. I'm completely like neutral towards, I don't think he probably fucking hates me if he knows about me. But I don't think that any of this stuff can be extended to them. You know what I mean? And then for Destiny's orbiters are mainly just interested in like clout and money, which are kind of predictable quandaries. You know, like if you get snaked by a Destiny orbiter, it's kind of like hopping into a snake pen and being like, wow, is this copperhead actually going to bite me? And when it bites you, it's like, did you not know this was going to happen? I'm sorry. I thought we had an arrangement here. But like when you think of Hasan's orbiter class, you know, the kind of people who would be your peer if you run into them even, you have like Denims, who is like, I started watching some Denim stuff. That is like head empty content, like snide, trying to do anime villainous laugh grade trash. Frogan, who's just literally pro-terrorism. Mike from PA, who is Mike from PA. I don't think you even need to get into that. And I think maybe like Kira chats and stuff are still over there. And then you have like kind of like right around him, kind of invading his territory, and all alongside it is the entirety of like the tanky nexus. But honestly, I would even fucking engage with the tanky nexus before I try to get, because like the Hasan people will think that they're morally right. I feel like tankies know that they're fucking awful, and so like it's not like a personal insult to them if you like make fun of them a bunch. They're not gonna try to weasel out of it. I could be wrong, but I would scrap with like Hakeem. Hakeem would be fucking mad. Fucking Iraqi supremacist. I fucking put my foot on the throat of his entire country. Hakeem, Bad Empanada. Bad Empanadas, they would not like me, but apparently his community is fond of me for fucking kicking White Leaf in the balls like 50 goddamn times. So they're like, I like that. They won't like me if we actually have to speak politically. I don't think. I don't think Bad Empanada likes anybody, right? Like, Second Thought, I legitimately despise, because Second Thought is like, it's empty thoughts, it's just no thoughts, brainless. And then who do you have after that? Luna Oi, Non-Compete. Do they still do stuff? I don't know. But I find like when I'm talking about those people, like they can be pretty fucking repugnant at times, but you know, anybody can in the politics sphere, especially if you talk about stuff that gets you heated. It is what it is. But I still find them overall somehow less disagreeable than the extant Hasan community. And when I keep saying community, I don't mean every little viewer, micro chatters, white names. I mean fucking high orbiters, dono hogs, fucking notable chatter types, elevated mid pyramid up individuals. There's something extraordinarily distasteful about them. And I think it's just the ostensibly leftist politicking while being highly dedicated to an extremely wealthy, foreign-born capitalist. I guess if he was apparently born in America, but there's like this capitalist from another wealthy imperial genocide committing nation moved to ours to talk about how bad our genocidal imperialistic nation is, and suck up fucking dono money from people on like disability and that have blue collar jobs in order to buy himself a Porsche, and then like saying like this is for leftism is crazy to me. Because it just having the people, the Hasan mansion, socialism is one house type shit. I still pretty much stand where I was on that before, which is I kind of don't give a fuck. I'm not surprised by it. But his conspicuous consumption and his pocket watching, the fact that he argues with people, and I've heard him argue with people a few times from a position of wealth and clout and authority, is just so not lefty to me by any stretch of the imagination. And he's no Stalin either. So it's like, I wouldn't even give him credit as a vanguardist. He just seems like someone else's lucky fool who got off his leash. If anything, like Hasan seems to me like to be someone else's pet, and I just don't know who the owner is, and they haven't come to claim him yet, but like they're out there somewhere. And if I'm wrong, correct me on that, but that's my overall opinion on the entire situation. And I'm not surprised that he had a falling out between him and Ethan Klein. Ethan Klein is Dramasphere adjacent, very much kind of in that world, and Dramasphere commentary people have one primary rule first and foremost, and it's don't be a hypocrite, which is easy to fall the stride of, but like having a sense of self-awareness is incredibly important to that. And Hasan's community and Hasan especially have no sense of self-awareness whatsoever. So like that fallout was ultimately going to happen. And then all the ancillary reasons I added on top of that, I stand by. So with all that said, ladies and gentlemen, that's the show.
Hope you enjoyed your time on the West Side.